All right, all right, all right. Happy Friday evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing all right on this Friday evening. You know, for those of you that are new subs, thank you so much for giving my channel a chance. Thank you a lot for allowing me to be part of this true crime genre. You know, and those of you that continue to be supportive of my channel, I appreciate that a lot. I'm going to talk about Matthew Perry tonight. I'm going to keep reading the friend, the lovers, and the big terrible thing that I started the other day. Like I said, I've read this book before, and it's really tragic. If you look if you look at his life as he was telling it, it's just so tragic. Because you would think that most people that make people laugh for a living are pretty well grounded. You know what I mean? Like they're happy, like he was talking about in the first chapter. He was talking about making money and how he wanted to be famous. And, it ended up where that became not as important as trying to get himself out of his own head. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a terrible place to be. I thought I'd take a break from the Idaho 4 case, even though I was doing some research. I was doing some research on it today, and I found a lot of new pictures. I just can't find the one that I want. I don't know what happened to that picture. Um, so if any of y'all collect Idaho 4 pictures or screenshots, it is the one where there's two police officers on Queen Road Apartments, and they're on the second landing. There's like there's steps there. And if you saw my camera video, you'll understand which apartment I'm talking about. They're actually standing out front of that and they're looking around. So if you have that, you can either email it to me or, you know, just let me know where it's at and I'll go get it. Um, Let me say hi to some of the people that are in chat. We have Glitter is Forever. We have Rondi. We have Cash. Hey, buddy, I saw you earlier in another chat. We have Aquarius in here. You know, I don't know if y'all watched the upload that I did this morning. I try to do an upload on Idaho 4 every morning. I don't know if y'all got a chance to watch it or not, but it was talking about obsessions. It was talking about how females are obsessed with killers. Like they become really obsessed. Hey Leon, I haven't seen you in forever. I hope everything's going well with you. Been wondering where you've been. How they become very obsessed with, you know, being a part of the killer's life, and it gives them notoriety and things like that. Well, can you imagine being a famous person like Matthew Perry was, and you're going everywhere, and people just ultimately think that um you have everything in order. Hey Heidi, how are you doing? Thank you for being here. And they assume that your life is perfect. And as Matthew was talking about it, he was stating, his life wasn't perfect. He always felt abandoned. He always felt like he wasn't enough. He always felt like he couldn't get the love that um that he was searching from the time that his dad abandoned him, the time that his mom wasn't there, you know. Well, I'm glad to see you, Leon. I'm glad to see you. I've been worried about you. I've been even asking people if they've seen you, because I know you were pretty regular. You know, so those abandonment issues, they don't go away. They don't go away unless you get some treatment for it. Um, and sometimes people just say, "Well, I'm just going through a phase. I'm just going through a phase. I don't need to be talking to anybody about the issues that are going on with me." And I would say, yes, you do, because sometimes what's important to you may not be really important to other people. You know, like your feelings are valid, and it is important to um. Let me just do the single page because that other would drive me crazy. And like I'm saying, your problems are your problems, and people sometimes they don't understand it. They don't really understand it, and it's always a good thing to let people know what's going on, because people honestly are caring people. So let me get on with this. I kind of gave you a small interlude on what was going on. So let's continue on. And if it freezes or I get bumped off, please don't leave. I'm going to try to fix it. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but yeah, last night I was having issues. So please don't leave or come back if I log back in or start a new one or whatever. Okay. So here we go. It says the first thing I did when I got home from those 5 months in the hospital was light up a cigarette. After all that time, the inhale, the smoke billowing in my lungs, unlike the first cigarette I had ever had in my entire life. It felt like a second homecoming. I was no longer in pain. The massive surgery on my stomach has caused scar tissue, which in turn caused my stomach to feel like I was doing a sit up at full stretch 24/7. But it wasn't actually pain, it was more of an annoyance. But no one needed to know that, so I told everyone I was in pain so I could go get Oxycontin. Pretty soon, the 80 milligrams a day of Oxy I had conned them into giving me wasn't working anymore, and I needed more. When I asked the doctors for more, they said no. When I called a drug dealer, he said yes. Now all I had to do was figure out a way to get down 30 or 40 floors from my $20 million penthouse apartment without Aaron spotting me. I bought the place, I swear to God, because Bruce Wayne lived in such an apartment in the dark night. Over the next month, I attempted to do this 4 times. I was caught, you guess, 4 times. I was horrible at it. Naturally, the call came down from above that this man needs to go to rehab again. So, after the explosion of my bowels, I'd been through a first surgery and needed to wear a rather attractive colostomy bag, a look even I couldn't pull off. There was a second surgery pending to remove the bag, but in between the two surgeries, I was banned from smoking. Smokers tend to have much uglier scars, hence the stricture. Not to mention, I was missing my two front teeth. A bite into a piece of toast with peanut butter had cracked them, and I hadn't had time to fix them yet. So let me get this straight. You're asking me to quit doing drugs and quit smoking at the same time? I didn't give a fuck about the scars. I'm a big smoker. This was too much to ask. What this meant was I had to go to rehab in New York, quit Oxy, and quit smoking simultaneously, and I was scared. Has anybody ever had to do that in treatment? Quit all those things at once? Once I got to rehab, they gave me Subutex for the detox. So that wasn't that bad. I checked into my room and the clock started. My day 4, I was going out of my mind. This had always been the hardest day. I realized how serious they were going to be about the smoking thing, too. It was decided that I could smoke while on detox, but once I moved up to the third floor, the smokes had to go. They insisted so much that I was locked in the building so I could not get out. I was on the third floor, all around New York, purred in the distance, going about its business, living life while their favorite sarcastic sitcom star was in hell once more. One more time. If I listened hard enough, I could just hear the subway. The F train, the R train, the 456 deep below me, or maybe it was the rattle of something else, something unbidden and terrifying and unstoppable. This rehab was prison, I was convinced of it. A real prison, not like the one I had made up before. Red bricks, black from bars. Somehow I'd found my way to jail. I'd never broken the law. Well, I'd never been caught. Nevertheless, here I was in a lockup. The pokey, the house of D, missing my two front teeth. I even looked like a convict, and every counselor was a guard. They may as well have been. They fed me through a slot in a bolted door. I hated the whole place. They didn't have anything to teach me. I've been in therapy since I was 18 years old. And honestly, by this point, I didn't need any more therapy. What I needed was my two front teeth and a colostomy bag that didn't break. When I say that I woke up covered in my own shit, I'm talking 50 to 60 times. On the mornings when the bag did not break, I noticed another new phenomenon. When I woke up, I enjoyed about 30 seconds of freedom as I slowly wiped the sleep from my eyes, and then the reality of my situation would hit me, and I would burst into tears at a rate that would even make Merle Streep jealous. Oh, and I needed a cigarette. Did I mention that? I was sitting in my room doing God knows what on day 4 when something hit me. I don't know what. It was like something was punching me from the inside. But even though I'd been in therapy for more than 30 years and it had nothing new to teach me, I had to do something to get my mind off nicotine, so I left my cell and headed down the hallway. Aimless, I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going. I think I was trying to walk outside my own body. I knew that all the therapists were on the floor below me, so I decided to skip the elevator and make for the stairwell. I didn't really know what was happening. I can't do this. I can't to do this day. I can't to this day describe what was going on, except that I was in a sort of panic, confusion, a kind of fugue state, and there was that intense pain again. Not pain, but pretty close to it. Total confusion. And I wanted to smoke so badly, so I stopped in the stairwell and thought about all the years of agony and the fact that the yard never got painted blue, and Pierre fucking Trudeau, and the fact that I was then and still am an unaccompanied minor. It was like the bad parts of my life were appearing to me all at once. I'll never be able to fully explain what happened next, but all of a sudden I started slamming my head against the wall as hard as humanly possible. 15 loves, slam! 30 loves, slam! 40 loves, slam! Game. Ace after ace, volley after perfect volley, my head, the ball, the wall, the cement court, all the pain lobbed up short, me reaching up, smashing my head against the wall, blood on the cement and on the wall, and all over my face, completing the grand slam. The umpire screaming, game, set, and match. Unaccompanied minor, sixth love, need love, sixth love, scared of love. There was blood everywhere. After about 8 of those mind numbing slams, somebody must have heard me and stopped me and asked the only logical question, why are you doing that? I gazed at her and looking like Rocky Balboa from every one of those last scenes, I said, because I couldn't think of anything better to do. Stairwells. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? It's pretty interesting. Let me continue on to chapter 2. Another generation shot to hell. It seemed like the whole world was walking through the arrivals lounge of LAX that summer. World class amateur gymnasts, sprinters, discus throwers, pole vaulters, basketball players, weightlifters, show jumpers, and their horses, swimmers, fencers, soccer players, synchronized swimmers, media from all over the globe, officials and sponsors and agents. Oh, and one 15-year-old, also amateur tennis player from Canada. They all washed up in Los Angeles during the summer of 1984. The only one was being a big geographic. That was the year of the Los Angeles Olympic Games, the golden time of the high sun and muscled excellence of 100,000 people packed into the Coliseum and the Rose Bowl, where Mary Lou Retton needed a 10 to win the gymnastics all around and nailed it, and where Carl Lewis won 4 gold medals by running really fast and jumping really far. It was also the year I immigrated to the United States. A lost Canadian kid with a dick that didn't seem to work, heading to Tinseltown to live with his father. Back in Ottawa, before I left, a girl had tried to have sex with me, but I was so nervous that I drank 6 beers beforehand and couldn't perform. By then, I'd been drinking a few years. It began soon after the time I gave my mother away to that lovely man, Keith. And I do mean lovely. Keith lived for my mother. The only thing that is annoying about Keith is that he always takes my mother's side. He is her protector. I can't tell you how many times my mother had done something that I may have taken issue with, and I've been told by Keith that it never happened. Some would call this gaslighting, others would call it gaslighting. It's gaslighting, but my family was held together by one man, and that was Keith Morrison. Anyway, back to my penis. I failed to make the correlation between the booze and my private parts not working, and no one could know about this. No one. So I was walking around the planet thinking sex was something for other people. For a long time, years, sex sounded awfully fun, but it's not in my arsenal. This meant in my mind and pants, at least, that I was congenitally impotent. If I just got to Los Angeles, I'll be happy. That's what I thought. Seriously, that's what I thought. A geographic, long before I even knew what a geographic was, would do it for me. I fit right in with the muscled, hyper trained athletes also waiting at the baggage carousels. Weren't we all just bringing some kind of crazy dream to this crazy city? If there were 100 sprinters and only 3 medals per discipline, how much saner could you say they were than me? In fact, I probably had a better chance of making it in my profession than they did in theirs. After all, my dad was an actor, and that's what I wanted to be. All he had to do was help me push on doors already ajar, right? And so when I came halfway down the pack, I might not have got a medal either, but at least I'd get away from Ottawa and a dick that didn't seem to want to work. And the family. I wasn't really a part of on and on and on. The initial plan for me had involved sports too. My tennis had advanced to the point where we seriously considered me enrolling in the Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy in Florida. Bollettieri was a premier tennis coach. He helped Monica Seles, Andre Agassi, Maria Sharapova, and Venus and Serena Williams, among many others. But once in LA, it quickly became apparent that I was going to be a perfectly solid club player. Nothing more. I can remember enrolling in a satellite tournament with my dad and my new family watching. He'd remarried to Debbie, a lovely woman and a catch of the century in 1980, and back then they had a very young daughter, Maria. And in my first match, I didn't win a single point. The standard in Southern California was off the charts. When it's 72 degrees every day and there are tennis courts seemingly in every backyard, And on every street corner, some kid from the icy waste of Canada, where it's sub zero from December through March, if you're lucky, is going to struggle to make an impact. It was kind of like being a really good hockey player in Burbank. And so it turned out my dreams of being the next Jimmy Connors quickly faded when faced with whipped 100 miles per hour serves coming from bronze Californian gods who hoped to be 11 years old and called Chad, but spelled with a capital D. It was time to look for a new profession. Despite this swift reality check, I love LA instantly. I love the vastness of it, the possibilities of it, the opportunity to start anew. Not to mention that the 72 degrees every day made a nice change from Ottawa. Plus, when I realized that tennis wasn't going to be how I would make a living, and someone told me people actually get paid to act, I quickly changed career goals. This wasn't as far fetched as it seemed for a start. My dad was in show business, and I had a hunch that the attention would light me up like a Christmas tree. I had had a solid training at home whenever there was tension or I needed attention. I'd honed my skill to delivering a killer line. If I was performing well, everything was safe and I was being taken care of. I might have been an incompetent minor, but when I got laughs, there was a whole audience my mother, my siblings, the Murray brothers, kids in school who would stand and applaud me. It also didn't hurt that 3 weeks into my sophomore year at a very prestigious and expensive, thanks Dad, new school. I was cast in the lead role of the high school play. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at George Gibbs in Thornton Wilder's Our Town. Acting came naturally to me. Why wouldn't I want to pretend to be another person? Jesus Christ. I think my dad had sensed this was going to happen. After I was cast in Our Town, I raced home to share the big news and found a book lying on my bed called Acting with Style. The inscription inside read, Another generation shot to hell. Love, Dad. Acting was another one of my drugs, and it didn't do the damage that alcohol was already starting to do. In fact, it was getting harder and harder to wake up after a night of drinking. Not on school days, it hadn't escalated that far yet, but certainly every weekend. But first, I had to get regular education. I was the pale Canadian kid with a quick mouth, and there's something about an outsider that piques the curiosity of teenagers. We seem exotic, especially we have a Canadian accent and can name the entire roster of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Plus, my dad was the Old Spice guy for years on their TVs. My schoolmates had seen dad dressed as a sailor on shore leave, replete with peacoat and black sailor cap, slinging that iconic white bottle at clean shaven bit actors while urging them to clean up your life with Old Spice. It may not have been Shakespeare, but he was famous enough and he was tall and handsome and very funny. And he was my dad. Dad was also a drinker. Every morning or every evening, he'd arrive home from whichever set he'd been on or not been on, pour himself a healthy slug of vodka tonic, and announce, This is the best thing that's happened to me all day. He said this about a drink, sitting next to his son on a couch in Los Angeles. Then he'd have four more and take the fifth to his bed. Dad taught me many good things, too, but he certainly taught me how to drink. It's still no accident that my drink of choice was a double vodka tonic. And my thought every time was, this is the best thing that happened to me all day. There was a difference, though, a big one. Without fail, next morning at 7, Dad would be up, bright and breezy. He'd shower and apply his aftershave, never Old Spice, and he'd head out to the bank or his agent or to set. He never missed a thing. Dad was the epitome of a functional drinker. I, on the other hand, was already struggling to wake up and causing whispers with those who drank around me. I watched my father drink 6 vodka tonics and live a perfectly functional life, so I figured it was possible. I figured I'd be able to do the same thing, but there was something lurking in the shadows and my genes, like a creepy beast in a dark place. Something I had that my father did not, and it would be a decade before we knew what it was. Alcoholism, addiction. You call it what you want. I've chosen to call it a big, terrible thing. I feel you. I feel you, Maddie. Y'all still with me? But I was George Gibbs too. I don't remember what my classmate thought of this newbie showing up with his pale skin and Canadian brogue, but I didn't care. Sparknose described Gibbs as an archipelago All American boy, a local baseball star and president of his senior class in high school. He also possesses innocence and sensitivity. He's a good son. But for George to stifle his emotions is difficult, if not impossible. So, pretty much dead on then. At home, though my dad had vodka all over the house one afternoon when he and Debbie were gone, I decided to take a big swig of vodka. As the warm spice of it jingled down my throat and innards, I felt that well being, that ease, that sense that everything was going to be fine. I saw the clouds from my backyard in Ottawa and I figured I'd head out onto LA to walk in this bliss, this 72 degrees heaven, to start a school play wandering like a drunk, Audius through the star studded streets. Clancy Siegel, writing for the London Observer about the 1984 LA Olympics, noted that whenever he visited the city, he sensed that he was passing through a soft membrane that seals Los Angeles off from the real painful world. Here I was too, slipping through that soft vodka softened membrane into a place where there was no pain, where the world was both real and not, and yet I was turned a corner. Something else hit me that never occurred to me before. Death. Fear of death. Questions like, why are we all here? What the meaning of all this? What's the point? How do we all arrive to this? What are human beings? What is air? All these questions poured into my brain like a tidal wave. I was just rounding a fucking corner. The drink, that walk, opened a chasm in me that's still there. I was so troubled. I was an extremely screwed up guy. The questions cascaded like alcohol into a glass. All I've done was what Siegel had done. I had arrived in Los Angeles, along with gymnasts and sprinters and horses and riders and actors and wannabes and the has-beens and the Old Spice actors, and now a great void that opened up beneath me. I was standing at the edge of great pit of fire, like the pit of hell, in the Karakum Desert of central Turkmenistan. That drink and that walk had created a thinker, a seeker, but not some soft focused Buddhist crap. One who was on the edge of a deep crater of flames, haunted by the lack of answers, by being unaccompanied, by wanting love, but being terrified of abandonment, by wanting excitement, but being unable to appreciate it, by addicted in work. I was face to face with the four last things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell. A 15-year-old boy brought up close to the face of eschatology, so close he could smell the vodka on his breath. Years later, my father too would take his own meaningful walk. He had a bad night on a drink where he fell through some bushes or something. And he talked to Debbie about it the following morning, and she said, "Is this the way you want to live your life?" And he said, "No." Then he went for a walk and quit drinking and had a drop since. Excuse me? You went for a walk and quit drinking? I've spent upward of $7 million trying to get sober. I've been to 6,000 AA meetings. Not an exaggeration, more an educated guess. I've been to rehab 15 times. I've been in a mental institution, gone to therapy twice a week for 30 years, been on death's door. And you went for a fucking walk? I'll tell you where you can take a walk. But my dad can't write a play, star on Friends, help the helpless, and he doesn't have 7 million to spend on anything. Life had its trade-offs, I suppose. This begs the question: would I trade places with him? Why don't we get to that one later? How y'all doing? Y'all doing all right? Y'all still with me here? On the jukebox, I'd put a few dimes in and play Don't Give Up by Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush over and over. Sometimes I'd slip in Main Street by Bob Seger or Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. One of the reasons we loved the 101 coffee shop was because they kept the jukebox up to date. Plus, it felt like old Hollywood in there with its caramel colored leather booths and a sense that at any moment someone super famous might walk in. To pretend that fame didn't change anything. By 1986, I was pretty sure fame would change everything, and I yearned for it more than any other person on the face of the planet. I needed it. It was the only thing that would fix me. I was certain of it. Living in LA would occasionally Living in LA, you would occasionally bump into a celebrity, or you'd see Billy Crystal at the Improv make note of Nicolas Cage in the next booth, and I just knew they had no problems. In fact, all their problems had been washed away. They were famous. I'd been auditioning steadily and had gotten a gig or two, most notably in the first season of Charles in Charge. I played Ed, a preppy plaid sweater and tie wearing square who confidently intoned his one main line: My father's a Princeton man and a surgeon. I'd like to follow in his footsteps. But it was work and TV, and without much more thought, I found that I was already skipping school to hang out at the diners with girls who liked my accent and my quick patter and my budding TV career and my ability to listen to them. Thanks to my training back in Canada, I knew I was able to listen to and help women in crisis. If you're a woman and you're in duress and you sing a song about it, I will listen to it over and over and over. So there I was in the 101 coffee shop, holding court with a giggle of young women, quick with a line and a smirk and a willing ear. I ditched the preppy Charles in Charge look as soon as I'd left the Universal lot in Studio City and dressed like any cool teen in the mid 1980s. Denim jacket over a plaid shirt, or probably wearing Kinks t-shirt before going home to listen to Air Supply. When you're nearly 16, days seem endless, especially when you're a charming bunch of young women in a greasy spoon in Hollywood. I must have been really on that day too, because as I joked around, a middle-aged guy walked past the booth and I put a note on a napkin in front of me on the table, and I walked away and right out the door. The girls all stopped chattering. I looked at this guy's back as he left. Then I did a prototype of Chandler's double take, getting more laughs. Well, read it, one of the girls said. I carefully picked up the note as though it were covered in poison and slowly opened it. In spidery handwriting, it said, I want you to be in my next movie. Please give me a call at this number. William Reichert. What does it say? Another girl said. It says, could you be more? Okay, it says, could you be more handsome and talented? I said, deadpan. No, the first girl said, it does not. The tenor of her disbelief caused another round of laughter as I said, oh, thanks very much. But when the laughter died down, I said, it says, I want you to be in my next movie. Please give me a call at this number, William Riker. One of the girls said, that sounds legitimate, right? I said, this movie is going to be shot in the back of a windowless van. At home that evening, I asked my dad what to do. He was on his third vodka tonic. There was just enough cogency left in his tank to get me a useful answer. By now, he was starting to get a little frustrated by the fact that my career was beginning to percolate. He wasn't jealous, but he was aware that I was younger than he was and the road was rising to meet me, and that if I played my cards right, I might have a better career than the one he was having. That said, he never showed anything but support. There was no great Santini going on here. My dad was my hero, and he was proud of me. Well, Maddie, he said, can't hurt to call. But whenever my dad said I knew I'd call that number, I'd known it when I first read the note. This was Hollywood, after all. That's supposed to be how it happens, right? It turned out that William Riker didn't want to make a movie in the back of a van. Riker had been watching me perform for the girl that day in 101 and had seen enough of the Matthew Perry show to want to cast me in a movie he was making based on a novel, A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. The novel and the movie are set in Chicago in the early 1960s. Rendon is a teenager who is being forced to go to business school then when all he really wants to do is get enough money to buy a plane ticket to Hawaii, where his girlfriend lives. I was to play Reardon's best friend, Fred Roberts, who, like Ed and Charles in Charge, was well off and a bit snobby and suffered from chronic virginity. I could relate. I did the preppy look once again, as Fred was to be dressed in a gray felt flat cap and leather jacket over a dress shirt and a tie. Oh, and the black leather gloves. In the movie, the character of Reardon sleeps with my girlfriend. But that's okay because playing Reardon would be someone it would be a privilege to be cheated on by. Ah. What are y'all doing? Y'all having a good time? I have some blocked people. The list of geniuses who were ahead of their time is too long to detail here. Suffice to say, near the top of any such list would be my co-star in A Knife of Jimmy Reardon, River Phoenix. This movie was my first job, and I'm acutely aware it would be a better story if the movie was a huge hit. But all that really matters is that I learned how to make a film, and I got to know River, who personified beauty in every way. There was an aura around that guy, but he made you feel too comfortable to even be jealous of him. Stand By Me had just come out, which he excelled in, and when you walked into a room with him, his charisma was such that you instantly became part of the furniture. The movie was shot in Chicago, so there I was, just turning 17 years old and heading to the Windy City. Sans parents, sans anything. Once again, an unaccompanied minor. But this time it felt like freedom, like what I was born to do. I'd never been so excited in my life. It was Chicago. And on this movie, and with River Phoenix, that I fell deeply in love with acting. And a cherry on top of this deeply magical time with the river and I became firm friends. He and I drank beer and shot pool on North Rush Street. The Color of Money had just come out, and pool was the thing to do. We had a per diem. We flirted with girls, though that's as far as it went for me because, well, you know. River was a beautiful man, inside and out. Too beautiful for this world, it turned out. River was better actor than me. I was funnier. But I certainly held my own in our scenes, no small feat. When I look back decades later, but more important, River just looked like at the world in a different way than we all did. And that made him fascinating and charismatic. And yes, beautiful. But not in a Gap ad kind of way, though he was in that too. And there is no one else in the world like him kind of way. Not to mention, he was rocketing to stardom, yet you would never know it. And somewhere in all that magic, River Phoenix and I managed to shoot a movie together. Later, River would say that he wasn't happy with his performance in Jeremy Reardon, claiming he hadn't been the right person for the role. But to me, he was the right person for every role. He could do anything. I remember seeing him in the movie Sneakers. He was making choices no one else would make, not to mention holding his own with legends like Robert Redford and the wonderful Sidney Poitier. If you hadn't seen it, you should. It's highly entertaining. The movie we made would eventually tank at the box office, but it didn't matter. We'd been somewhere beautiful and magical, even if it was just North Rush Street in freezing Chicago. And it was the best experience of my life. I knew it too. My work was done in about 3 weeks, but they, probably River, actually liked me so much that they kept me on the movie till the end. Things didn't get better than this. One night, alone in my tiny room at the Tremont Hotel, as things were drawing to a close, I knelt down and said to the universe, "Don't you ever forget this." And I have not. But magic never lasts. Whatever holds your feelings seem to keep opening back up. It's like whack a mole. Maybe it was because I was always trying to fill a spiritual hole with a material thing. I don't know. Either way, when it came to the last day of shooting, I sat on my bed in my Chicago hotel room and cried. I sobbed and sobbed because I knew even then I would never again have an experience like this. My first movie, far from home, free to flirt and drink and hang out with a brilliant young man like River Phoenix. I would sob again 7 years later on Halloween 1993 when River died in front of the Viper Room in West Hollywood. I heard the screaming from my apartment, went back to bed, woke up to the news. After his passing, his mom wrote in reference to drug use, "The spirits of River's generation are being worn down." And by then, I was drinking every night, but it would be years before I understood exactly what she meant. With Jimmy Reardon in the can, I flew back to LA from Chicago and I returned to planet Earth in the form of high school. I was still auditioning for tons of things, but wasn't getting much traction. I was booking mostly comedy stuff, and then I ended up guest starring on just about everything. My grades still sucked, though. I graduated with a 2.0 average, actually. All that I asked for with my graduation was that my mother and father both attend, which they kindly did. The incredibly awkward dinner that followed seemed only to underline the fact that the child they shared was destined to be uncomfortable as a default, even though he was also usually the funniest person in the room. But that night at dinner, I was the only third funniest and the third most beautiful. At least a childhood dream of them being together had came true, if only for one night. And even then, if only in embarrassing silences and Barb passed back and forth like some angry cosmic joint. I'm grateful to my parents for attending that dinner. It was incredibly kind and completely unnecessary thing for them to do, but it crystallized something for me that I had never anticipated. It was right. They weren't together. They were not to. They were not to be. They were correct to be apart. They both subsequently found the person they were meant to be with, and I'm incredibly happy for both of them. Maddie no longer needed to make the wish that his parents would be together. It would be decades before they were in the same room again, and then for a very different reason. The acting roles and the quick mind and mouth and the friendship with River and the denim jacket over plaid shirt all combined to help me land a beautiful girlfriend named Trisha Fisher, Eddie Fisher and Connie Stevens' daughter. That's right, Carrie Fisher's half sister. This girl was no stranger to charm. The rhyming poetry of her name alone should have made her irresistible. Plus, I was 18 now, and I was pretty sure everything worked, except when I was in the company of another human being. I carried impotence around with me like a great ugly secret, like I carried around everything else. Accordingly, as my relationship with Tricia Fisher deepened, thought naturally turned to physical consumption. But I announced confidently that I was a Roman Catholic. I wanted to wait. Not many 18-year-old males say that, by the way, nor should they. This, of course, caught her interest. When she pressed me on why, I said something about commitment or the future or the state of the planet or my career, anything. In fact, to avoid telling her that I was softer than a caramel colored booth at the 101 coffee shop when push came to shove. And I couldn't let push come to shove or my secret would be out. My firmness, at least, and my conviction to wait lasted 2 months, but damn burst and the makeout sessions that didn't lead anywhere were beginning to cause both of us to hyperventilate. Tricia Fisher made up her mind. Maddie, she said, I've had enough of this. Let's go. She took my hand and led me to the bed in my tiny studio apartment in Westwood. I was horrified and also excited, though. I was still haunted by my inner dialogue of fear. Maybe this time, and with someone I care deeply for. My previous inabilities will dissolve. Dissolve. Bad word. Should I have a stiff drink beforehand? Well, stiff not the problem, pal. Maybe it won't be as hard as I feared. Not as hard. Maddie, stop doing that. Before this brief dialogue could turn into a three-penny opera, Tricia had just rubbed both of us and pulled us onto the bed. I distinctively remember the foothills of lovemaking as pure bliss, but like a neophyte mountaineer, I feared that beyond a certain base camp, no amount of oxygen will help me get any higher. And so it proved to be. How else to put it? I just couldn't get that thing to work right. I thought of everything, spinning complex erotic images through my addled brain, hoping to land on something, one thing, that's all it will take. That would firm up any commitment to future bliss. Nothing worked. Nothing. Horrified yet again, I forsook the loving arms of Tricia Fisher and patted my slim, naked body over to a chair in the apartment. It was like you could bend me in half if you wanted to. I sat there, soft and sad, my two hands cupped over my lap like a nun's during vespers, doing my best to cover my embarrassment and maybe a tear or two. Tricia Fisher would once again having none of it. Maddie, she said, what the hell is going on? Don't you find me attractive? Oh no, of course I find you attractive, I said. The physical issues were bad enough. But worse, I could feel an escalating sense of abandonment slipping in through the windows of that room. What if Tricia left me? What if I wasn't enough? Like I always wasn't enough? What if I was destined to be unaccompanied again? I was desperate. I really liked her, and I really wanted to believe that love could save me. There was only one thing to do. I had to tell her everything. Tricia, I said, back when I was in Ottawa, I was so nervous about making out with a girl that I drank 6 beers. I left nothing out, told Tricia the whole shameful tale, and I ended up admitting that I was impotent, and I always would be. That it was no use, there was nothing to be done, that my desire for her could never be matched by anything solid, anything worthy of the name. That I was desperate for her not to abandon me too. So if there was anything I could do to keep her, all she had to do was ask. And on and on and on I went, burbling like a little river in the spring. Dear Tricia Fisher, she let me babble on and on and on, as I tried my best to convince her that no matter how beautiful she was, and she was very beautiful indeed, it didn't matter. I was destined to repeat that night in Ottawa for the rest of my days. Eventually I wound down, took a deep breath. Tricia said very calmly, very simply, come with me. That's never going to happen again. With that, she walked over to me, took my hand, led me back to the bed, laid me down, and sure enough, sheer glory for 2 whole minutes. That night, by the dint of a miraculous universe and the ministrations of a beautiful young woman who deserved better, I finally first misplaced my virginity, then lost it altogether, and impotence has not been part of my vocabulary since, just as she promised it wouldn't be. Everything about me, at least physically, worked just fine. And how, pray tell, did you manage to pay such a debt, Mr. Perry, such an onerous debt to the woman who saved your life in one of the most meaningful ways imaginable? Why, good reader, I paid that debt to Patricia by sleeping with almost every woman in Southern California. On one such date back then with another 18-year-old, at one point, the woman stopped dinner and said, "Let's go back to your house and have sex." Sex still being relatively new to me, I agreed right away. We went to my apartment, and as we crossed the threshold, she stopped me and said, "Wait, wait, wait. I can't do this. You have to take me home," which of course I did. The following day, I felt bothered by what had happened and already in therapy. I shared the story with my therapist. "I'm going to tell you a story and it's going to help you," he said. "When a woman comes over to your place and she takes her shoes off, you're going to get laid. If she leaves them on, you won't." I was 18 then. I am 52 now, and he had been right 100% of the time. There have been times I've cheated a little and left a pair of shoes at my doorstep as a kind of hint that this is where the shoes go, but that therapist's insights had been correct every single time. If a woman keeps her shoes on, it's a make out session at best. Isn't it interesting what you learn when you read a book? I need to take that little bit of advice there. I never knew that. How do people know that? Years later, Tricia and I would date again while Friend was at its peak. She didn't abandon me, but old fears crept up, and I ended the relationship. I only wish I could have truly feel that she didn't abandon me, truly believe that. Maybe things would be better. Maybe vodka tonic wouldn't have become my drink of choice. Maybe everything would be different, or maybe not. But to Tricia and those after her, I thank you. And to all the women that I left simply because I was afraid that they were going to leave me, I deeply apologize from the bottom of my heart. If I only knew then what I know now. All right, I'm going to stop right there. At least for the day, anyways. What do y'all think? What do you think of Matthew Perry's adventures, so to speak? Oh, wow, Glitter. You have them off right now? Yes, I have to keep you coming back, Rondi, you know? Um, it's an interesting book. It's a very interesting book. Thank you, Heidi. I was hoping I wasn't too boring as I was reading it, you know what I mean? Um, you know what's interesting is I wrote an entry in my journal after I finished reading it for the first time. Um, let me see if I can find it. I'll read it to you guys because it really hit home with me. It's interesting, like when you find something that you can relate to, and it's almost like someone is telling your story. Have you ever felt like you've lived a life that you had no answers to, and then all of a sudden you hear somebody else's story, and you're like, oh my God, they've actually read, or not read, but they've actually lived in my shoes. It's almost like somebody else understands, you know? It's really, it's really amazing to feel that way when you finally get when you finally get to somebody who really understands. Yeah, I did find it. Y'all want me to read it? I haven't wrote lately, but I used to write in this journal every day because I was messed up inside, just kind of like Matthew Perry. Let me read this to you guys, okay? It says, Reflection in the Mirror of Smoke. I've just finished a book by Matthew Perry, Lovers, Friends, and the Big Terrible Thing. If you've not read it, it might be a good read. The thing about that memoir was that it was so like hearing someone tell your story of a life you have known but have tried so hard to forget, if that makes any dang sense. I had no idea that Matt had such issues with addiction in life as his book depicts. I will speak on my own, but as the mind swirls, want to think about what I just digested in this memoir of his, The Big Terrible Thing. If you've not figured it out yet, it is the big terrible thing. If you've never had something that ruled your life or got out of control, then it really is something you may never understand. There was a quote in the book that spoke on having a loaded gun in your mouth and the hand on the trigger and loving the taste of the metal. In case you don't get the analogy, it's like something so close to killing you, but you're fascinated and you're not focused on the outcome, just at the moment of losing or loving the object. If you have never been here, it is hard to tell someone what an addict feels like. If you've read any of this journal of mine, you have come to an understanding on the journey I called my own hell. I went from the bottom to the top to the middle and back down in some areas. One thing I finally can maintain is sober living. I recalled something in this book that I had forgotten with what sober living really means. It is a way of thinking, reacting, and overcoming the urges to be free from thoughts and feelings. You know, those things that we feel and think 24/7 in our lives. So the one thing in our head that we don't even use all of can consist of the battlefield that haunt our existence. This being the thought to say you are not enough, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to be first, you're not going to get the one you want. You see how those thoughts just in reading them are stressful? Imagine that swirling in your head all the time. Even when you know it's insanity, you still entertain the thoughts at your lowest time of the day. That moment when sleep is essential for the best version of you to be visible to the world while the worst part of you is hiding from it. Many say just say good things about yourself and you will be okay. That works when the neurotransmitters that convey those thoughts are not fried up. In my case, must remember what feeling is like. I have to take myself to a calm, loving place, a place where there's no pain, no disappointment, no chaos. Then I can recall the feel of freedom. I've come a long way in life, have many successes, and all that I've tried so damn hard to throw grenades in all of it. You know how in the Bible it tells stories of Jesus hanging with the lowest of the society? Well, I've worked with those in society that are seen as degenerates, liars, thieves, convicts, and all dressed in three-piece suits. We pass on an idea to our descendants, and not trying to sound negative, I really am not, that if we work hard, save our money, get the house, the kids, the job, that life is a reward in itself. Somewhere along the way, we forget to mention the pitfalls and temptation that comes with all that. There are people that swear they're an open book and still are hiding from the world and its beliefs about their existence. Do you know anyone who is in your range of life that is truly an open book? We get on social media and share our highlights. Some do share their losses or need, but in reality, most don't want to hear that, or they would rather fix them. If you're too positive, then you're seen as fake or unfeeling of reality. So, which is it? You want the realness of pain and despair, or you want the flowers and dandelions swaying in the sun filled orifice of our membranes? The more days I count on this calendar of life, I have noticed that I am becoming more reclusive each passing day. I get the day with stories of illnesses, death, and other things. It really feels like time is really short on this ride. It's hard to enjoy much when everything has such a high cost with limited return. In this day and age, monogamy is a forgotten term to most. Independence is etched in anger, rebellion, and disclaimers. Empathy is a word that is shunned on from people that would rather spit in the face of the hurting rather than insist in the emergency. This is not everywhere. Don't want to give that impression, but more often than not, you don't get the manners, the courteous reflection of yesteryear. The title is a reflection in the mirror of smoke, meaning that we often look at ourselves through minuscule glimpses of reality. In the book, the quote it also stated that reality has an acquired taste. I don't have time to explain every quote, would be here all year. Use your imagination, not sure if anyone will even read this. Addiction is the loss of control over something that once started as a pleasurable escape from reality. In time, mine became women, eating, gambling, and other high risk behaviors. The sad part is, looking back on all those years, one thing was certain: happiness or escape was never around without a pill to replace the pieces of my mind that were burnt out due to all the excess in trying to escape. These days, most vape THC. It is so pure that not much is needed, and the person tells themselves it's a safe due to that fact. It is never about the amount. The tolerance eventually presents itself, and the amount is forgotten after a while, trying to beat the feeling you're trying to change. It is like the coffee I drank this morning. It is 3 hours into it, and I can feel it wearing off. I have an option: get up and walk to the and get the blood flowing, or go eat something to get my mind off the tiredness I will eventually be feeling later. Imagine that times a million on the brain while trying to work and maintain a presentable, a presentable face in society. The big question is, what do we all long for? Because in the end, money, sex, food, material things, all that does not equal happiness. It equals lots of catching up after the bills come rolling in. I'm at a loss for thought at the moment due to the light bulb flickering upstairs. Here I am, 52, writing in a journal online, trying to reconnect with a life that has passed me by and one that I'm trying so hard to cling to. Where do I go from here? After all the fireworks, fire trucks, and explosions are not around, how do you get the excitement that chaos once had a RSV for daily? Most of the people that have been a huge part of my life are gone, dead, or struggling with their health. I try to keep the pace I have ran most of my life and wake up with a strained pec, ankle, or back. Then it's 2 days off, then back to it again. I remember the time when life was confusing, non existent, and just a fantasy someone else spoke of. It would not be different if I had a family or kids. I could be the dad, the husband, and be great at it. While on the inside, the voice would creep in as everyone was asleep. Hey, it's me. How are you going to mess this all up? When do we get to play with the grenades? Why don't we get to have fun anymore? I roll over and just doze off to sleep and dream of a life where I am the star and always getting the girl. As I write this, I really don't care to get the girl as much anymore, as funny as that sounds. I could care less. I want to just get this mind to leave me alone. Medication has tamed it, but it always is stronger than anything I take. So I just go with it. It helped with the knowledge work in school. I become the overachiever and then fade in the background when you start to clap. I did that in sports, would be great in my mind. The crowd went wild. Then I would act like it wasn't me they were cheering for. How could anyone ever hold me up to that accolade? While the rest of the time you were being told how gross you were to look at, how this or that. God, kids are so cruel. The ones that did it back then, oh, they could see themselves now. The ticking of the clock tells me that the heart still ticks. That means I'm still here, here to try to find a place where I can exist without wanting to hide. If I am a thrust if I am thrust into the spotlight, I transform into a funny guy, a witty guy, a guy with all the right things to say, while wanting to hide from everyone after the show is over, but not wanting to be alone. See how insane that sounds? Self love has never been a problem. It's the destruction of myself that has. You say, how can you destroy something that you love? Ah, calling card of this whole thing. As the curtain closes for now, I'll be back with much later. I'll be back with more later. There you go. What y'all think? So I wrote that after I read the memoir of Matthew Perry. You know, it just I have 24, no, probably about 22 years worth of entries. I mean, I said that I would share them on here, but as I was sharing them, I got a weird backlash on it, so I just stopped. Oh, that was an entry in my journal. I wrote that. It was it's interesting whenever we strip away all the masks that we wear, when we strip away everything that we're scared to show the world, and we're actually genuine, and we're able to be ourselves. We're able to be what we desire to be without anyone's permission. And that's, if anything bothers me about true crime, it is the fact that sometimes people don't let you be who you are. It just, people don't let you be who you are. Like, you have an opinion on something, it's almost like they want to fight you, they want to argue with you. And like I just stated in that entry, what's it all for? Why worry about it so much? You know, sometimes you just have to sit back, pour yourself a big glass of iced tea, and ride the wave. Well, I don't know. I might read some of it like on the air. There's just so much of it. And there's a lot of it that's very, like, in the very beginning, it's very traumatic. It's very angry. It's full of anger. It's a lot of anger. And it's like, when I went to therapy, my therapist told me that, you know, I needed to write as if I was speaking to the person directly, even if they weren't there. That would give me the opportunity to express myself without having to worry about what was coming back. It would give me the opportunity to have a voice. Um, it's really not, Aquarius. It's not difficult at all. I've reread it actually. Um, it's actually given me motivation when I get on that self pity train. When when I start to say, "Oh my God, my life is this, my life is that. I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed." And you go back and you read it, and you're like, "Oh my God, it can always get worse." You forgot. You forgot how bad it could actually get. This is nothing compared to what you've gone through. And am I still angry? I have my moments. And you know where that anger comes from that I figured out eventually after all this time? See, I played sports for a long time. For a lot of years, played semi-pro football and all this stuff for a lot of years. And once you play a sport, you got to take yourself to not really anger, but you got to get to that point of getting your body worked up So you get used to that hyped sense of awareness. And once you stop playing sports, that doesn't go away. So, you know, part of that plus the pain of living and, some of the stuff that I've lived through, it wouldn't take that much to get to that point of awareness, you know? So, that I realized that that was the anger that I was using to fuel and to protect this person that I'm showing you on camera. Because I was never comfortable with this person because I always viewed him as weak and um, just too sensitive or whatever. And never wanted to show this person to anyone. Always wanted to show the the tougher guy, the tough, angry guy, the guy that wouldn't take anything from you, that would instantly just come at you, it'd be like, don't mess with me, type thing. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I did the best I could. I do get angry sometimes. Not angry. I've Nobody's ever seen me angry online. They swear they have, but that's not anger. That's assertiveness. That's assertiveness. That's not anger. Anger would be me cussing at the screen and threatening people and all this and all that. Oh, thank you, Glitter. Cranky. That's what you call it, Roddy. Cranky. So I guess if I could pass anything along to what I've been reading tonight, is try not to be so hard on yourself. I know it's easier said than done. I know we want to say, we love ourselves. We want to be kind to ourselves. And I used to have a boss that told me that. I mean, you meet people along the way sometimes, and they're so intuitively in tune with the serene part of life. It angers you a little bit because you're like, man, I want to get to that point in my life. I'm tired of being where I'm at. I want to, we're never happy where we're at. We always want something we can't have for whatever reason. Well, with me, I wanted to be serene like this person, and she's since passed away. And she used to always tell me every time she saw me or every time we were on the phone, she'd say, obviously, my name's not 12 gauge, but she would say my name and she would say, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be good to you today. Quit worrying about the money. Quit worrying about what ifs. Go buy the shoes. Go take a walk. Go eat a good meal. Stop worrying so much. And I started doing that and it is so it is so freeing when you just let yourself enjoy life, you know? It would be cool if my name was Gage. I even thought about changing it or interjecting it somewhere, but no, I'm happy with my name. Um, it means warrior. Believe it or not, when I was born, I was a preemie. I was born 2 pounds 5 ounces, and in the first years of my life, I had open heart surgery. I was always sick. I had tonsils. My tonsils were messed up. Had to be taken out. My mom said I was always sick, and so the name was fitting. Like my grandma and they all got together, and that's what they named me. and it means warrior. So it's like I want to pass along to you guys that yeah, they were worried. I couldn't leave the hospital till I got up to 5 pounds. Even then, I couldn't wait to get out. I was still impatient. I couldn't wait to get out. Mothers are very special in their life. For so long, I didn't have a good relationship with mine, my mom or my dad. My grandma was kind of the person that I saw as my mom. My grandma and my aunt, they were the prime figures in my life, and my uncle who was violently murdered was also kind of the father figure in my life. So, um, you grow up and you don't have a closeness with your family, and you wonder, just like I was just saying in that journal entry, you wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be close to my parents? Like they're close with my brother, or this and that and the other, and you just wonder, and that's why I can relate so much to this book, is because the way he talks, the way he describes, and it might not even be the same, but in my mind, that's how it felt. You know what I mean? And but through time and perseverance and never wanting to give up on anything in my life, I um I eventually found the answers, and my relationship with my mom and dad is 100% strong now. So I have no regrets. But early on, when you're young, you just don't understand all this stuff because you take everything so personal, you know? Well, Glitter, you need to I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. I'm just going to say sometimes you just got to give yourself the biggest hug that you can manage and say I got this. I can't shut down. I can't shut my emotions off. It's not okay not to feel. It's okay. It's going to be all right. Without the rain, there'd be no sun. There'd be no need for sunshine. If all we had was sunshine, the plants and trees and everything would wilt away. That's why we need some rainy days to help them grow. Oh, nice. Nice, BKC. That's awesome. My mom is 73, I think she said. 73. And she's one of those mamas that, like, I don't know, it just being able to do everything on my own for so many years. Like, I've always been a nomad. Like, I've always moved from place to place. I've never been in one place too long. It's like, live here for a little bit, then move somewhere else, then move somewhere else, then move somewhere else. And, it isn't until the later years that I finally settled down, and I've never really had that need for somebody to, like, the little things, like do my laundry, or, cook for me, or things like that. I've always taken care of those things myself. So whenever somebody offers to do that, and it's hard for me to say, okay, I'll let you. Like today, she saw my laundry in the back of my truck. I've had it in there all week because I told myself, I'm gonna I'm gonna do my laundry. I'm gonna do my laundry after work. Well, after work, I'm like, man, I'm mentally exhausted. The last thing I want to do is go do my laundry. So she saw it today, and she's like, let me go do that. And I was like, no, it's heavy, you don't need to be doing that. She's like, look, they'll help me over there. They got these little baskets or whatever. Let me do that for you. And I'm like, uh, well, here's the money at least to go do it. Here's the money. Well, she went and did it, and she came back and she called me because I was in my office, and she called me. She's like, I'm here. And I came out, and she's like, here, I brought you a protein shake. She's like, I didn't know what kind you liked. I said, strawberry's fine. The big old protein shake. And you know, I was like, that is so sweet of you. Like, you're so nice to me. Like I said, it's taken a long time to reconnect with my mom because, like, when I'd hug my mom, it would feel like I was hugging a stranger. And it isn't, it wasn't until later on that not only I became a therapist, that I understood it. She was so scared of losing me when I was young, she distanced herself from it just in case it happened. And it never left her. And for so long, I always turned it on myself like I wasn't good enough for her, or I wasn't good enough, that she didn't want me, or this or that and the other. But I finally figured it out. And if you're dealing with anything that has to do with any of your parents, if they're still alive, or even if they're not, and you have those moments where you feel like, man, why do I feel so alone? Why do I feel like, I've never been truly loved or cared for? What's wrong with me, or I'm not enough, or any of that? You have to try to take a step back and take a deep breath, and really ask yourself, hey, are you being realistic right now? Because your feelings will lie to you. They will tell you things. They will, you will feel things that are not real. And it's so you got to learn how to be kind to you. And I'm sorry about that, Paula. I'm not ignoring you or anybody in the chat. I'm reading along as I'm talking. Um, I'm glad that you guys come in here and spend some time with me where we can actually just have moments like this where it's not talking about, you know, other people's problems, but we actually have a moment to reflect on our own and understand that we're not alone. Because that is the hardest part about living, is the feeling that you're all alone and nobody understands, and you're the only one dealing with whatever you're dealing with, whether it be health problems, whether it be, relationship problems or job problems or financial problems, whatever it might be. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one and you're really not. And together we can get through this. Together we can get through this. Just know that when you're wanting to hurt yourself or say bad things about yourself, try to remember this next time. Hey, be kind to yourself. Be good to you. Whatever that means to you. Whatever that means. Go have that piece of cake. Go have that piece of pie, that ice cream. Whatever. There's nothing wrong with it. Stop living in fear of making the right choices all the time, because we're not going to make them all the time. You know? We're really not going to make those right choices all the time. And as long as you can find a way to repair it the best you can, that's the best we can do. That's the best we can do. I agree with you, Rondi. It's like a sense of community in a positive way. And you're right, Heidi. It's like it's easy to feel like you're on an island alone, but there are a lot of good people in the world who understand. That is so true. Because in true crime, you do hear the worst of situations. And I honestly believe that even the people that, seem to see the thing on the other side, I'm pretty sure they all just want the same thing that other people want. They want whatever the situation is to be right. They want the justice to be right. I understand that. There's just a lot going on in our world. The last thing we need to do is fight amongst ourselves. I haven't picked up this guitar in like a couple months, so I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. But I really hope that y'all enjoyed this tonight. I'll continue reading this book until we finish it, however long it takes. I know that if I just read every night that eventually you're gonna lose interest. So I'm try to do it every couple days or something like that. Glitter, you said wait. Oh, I'm not half as good, not even an inkling as good as Jeff. Jeff's at a show, by the way. Hope he's doing good. Maybe he'll upload some of his video from his show. Hopefully, I'll get there. I'll be able to play for y'all. That would be awesome. Wow. You just never know. You just never know. There was another live on tonight, and I was debating whether to go on or not. But I'm glad I did. Because, honestly, sometimes you need a break. You need a break from true crime. You need a break from all that madness. Because in reality, I don't think people understand that whatever the verdicts are in some of these trials, we're going to be upset or we're going to be happy or we're going to be confused. We're going to feel it for a couple days, if that. Then life's going to go on. Except for the real people who it affects on a daily basis, which are the families, you know? You know? And that's the sad part is a lot of times people do not put themselves in other people's shoes, and that lack of empathy, you know, it's terrible to see. But let me play some music. Not me play some music, but let me turn on some music that is copyright friendly and let you guys chat for a little bit before I call it a night. I'm trying to figure out which one of these are. Because I always have to put like a. Let me put something. Always like this one. Thank you. That is such a beautiful song. Like I used to use it on my Sunday, um, Serenity Sunday. Y'all like that picture, huh? That's funny. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. How do you like the shotguns on the side, the pistol grip shotguns? Jeff H actually made that for me. He said 12 gauge shotguns, one on each hand. Do you have to take your shoes off at 12 gauge's house? I don't know. Most people keep them on, so it is what it is. So I'm glad. I'm glad that. Yeah, Jeff H is a good guy, man. He just gets. I met Jeff a long time ago. Not a long time, but I don't know if y'all remember Detective John, but I made my my premiere was on one of his panels. That's how I started all this stuff going on. It's like I used to watch him, um, and one day he was on. He was on, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go up on panel if he'll let me. And he let me up there, and they were talking about all kinds of stuff. And I thought, man, what did I get myself into? I was all nervous. One day I'll show that clip, but it takes forever for me to talk. And I was all nervous, and I finally started speaking, and I wasn't even on camera. I wasn't even on camera. My face wasn't even being shown. Let me show you the picture I had up there. And I was like I was behind this picture and I still was nervous. I had this picture right here. And I was up there and just started talking and I was like, "Why are you so nervous, bro? You do this for a living. Why are you so nervous?" And I wasn't even on camera. And then he said, "Why don't you come up again some other night? Whatever." Yeah, you're right, Leon. You're so right. I kind of wish he would come back. Kind of wish he would come back. I've I've emailed him and I've even told him if he comes back, he's welcome on my panel, which is so weird. It's like when you're on somebody else's show, it just takes it. It makes you feel strange. I don't know what it is. Oh, you found me through Sergeant Friday. Yeah. Yeah, people trip out. I get a haircut every week because I work with the public, and working with kids, you can't have a bad hair day because they're gonna pick you apart with anything that's out of the ordinary, like a wrinkled shirt or you're wearing some crazy looking shoes or whatever. And I've noticed from working with adults and addicts and everything, like being in front of them, teaching them a group or something, you got to be on point. You got to be matching from head to toe and all that. So yeah, I get my haircut every week. Every week. Yeah, and then I started my own show, and you can't go live until you have like 500 subs. So I started out with 5, and I thought, man, it's gonna take forever to get to 500. And And I reached out to Jeff and I said, "Hey, bro, I'd like to interview you, or talk to you or whatever." And well, I do have the expensive shoes on, so it's like, I feel bad for them because some of them don't have very good shoes. So I'm like, with the adults, I'll finish my story about Jeff here in a minute, but and I am no way saying this to gloat or, any of this, but with the adults, I would if you know anything about my history, it's like, like I said in that entry, I've been up at the very top and I've had more than I needed. And I always buy in twos. Like I can never really figure out which one I want. So I buy both of them and I bring them home. Two pairs of shoes, two shirt, two shorts or two pants or, whatever. And I'd see people coming in and they wouldn't have shoes that were very warm during the winter or anything like that. And, there'd be pairs of shoes that I would wear one time. And I'd end up giving them away. And I've given out many clothes, many shorts, jeans, socks, all kinds of stuff. And now I'm a Virgo. And I would do that, and it's not to feel better. It just that's the type of person I am. It's like, I've had people in my life that have blessed me in those ways. And I've never been able to pay those people back, so I want to pay it forward by giving to other people. So, yeah, it's a very great way to fill the soul sometimes. If you're feeling low, find a way to give something to someone that they don't have, not because they owe you, but because you have the ability to. You know what I mean? And it's it's an it's I don't know. And I've also had those people turn their back on me, like they've tried to sabotage things in my life, after I help them. I still don't hold bad ill toward people. It's like that's why it gets me when people say that I'm such a I don't know, there's sometimes that people say that, like this person left on my comment the other day that, karma's gonna come back around and all the people that talk bad about Brian, um, karma's gonna get him or something like that. And I'm like, bro, did you even watch the video? I didn't even talk in that video. So how could you put that on me? You know what I mean? And I'm like, some people, they don't listen to the videos. They just want to put what they want to hear. It's like they want to talk. It's like, okay, I'll listen to you vent. It's cool. You know? Yeah, that's awesome too. During the holidays, it's always a great time to, like right now, it's a great time to start, stockpiling on blankets and, canned food and things like that because there's a lot of people that don't have them, you know? Yes, you're right. Helping others help you focus less on yourself for a minute. Yep, you're right. You're you're kidding. Tell them off. We shall see. I do want to, but it's like arguing with the wall. The wall's not really gonna do anything in return. And I learned a long time ago as a therapist, sometimes you just gotta be smarter in how you approach conversation rather than getting down on somebody's level. If all they can do is cuss you out and call you names and try to cut you down and all this stuff. And if you get into a conversation with them where you make them look less able to carry on a sensible conversation, you've won, you know? Yeah. No, they're not. Not much. If you haven't checked out my upload from this morning, it was talking about women who are attracted to killers, or women that are attracted to individuals that are very evil, obviously, you know. Yeah, like I said, at one point, probably around Christmas, I'm gonna like need y'all to email me your addresses, and I'm gonna put your addresses in a hat, and I'm gonna draw randomly on camera so you can see me, so that I'm not doing it, maliciously. I'm gonna draw out probably 3 or 4 names, and I'm gonna send you guys Christmas gifts just for being supporters. Maybe some of my merchandise, if I draw your name, maybe you can go through my merchandise and pick something out. By the way, hold on, let me show you all this. My hat finally came in. This is the 12 gauge bucket hat. So hard to show stuff on this camera. It has like the bullet holes on the brim, and you can flip it up. It's really nicer than the other one that I. It's really nicer than the one that I got last time. That one was kind of like a. I don't know. It was like a felt kind of hat. How many can you send in? I'm probably just gonna do one drawing. So just when the when the day gets closer to probably right after Thanksgiving, I'll do it. That way, you can email me your addresses, and then I'll print them off and put them in a hat, and then I'll shred them. That way I won't keep them. You know what I'm saying? The characters of out of 4, that's been a few. Yeah, bucket hats are cool. I mean, if you haven't checked out the merchandise, it's not. It was the first time around. I was trying to really design something just to get them off my back, and I ended up designing the bucket hat. There's visors in there. There's slides. There's beanies. There's coffee cups. There's all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, it just has 12 gauge investigative. It's not anything really fancy, but it's really they're unique. They're different. So you might go take a look. I don't think there's hats in there, but the beanies look cool. I mean, there's also like socks. There's little necklaces. There's all kinds of stuff. I haven't really been in there in a while. Y'all could go check it out. It's usually at the bottom of the video. You can click the link. You can go check that stuff out. I bet you don't either, Rondi. Good grief. Yeah, the camping mug's pretty cool. I thought that too, Aquarius. I thought that too. It looks heavy duty. Yeah, I thought, man, I'm gonna buy my own stuff. Like, let me see what it looks like. I gave my other bucket hat to my nephew. and he rocks it around school. I'm probably gonna get him some slides so they can show his football team, and they'll be like, "Who's 12 gauge? You don't know who 12 gauge is? You're missing out." Yeah, sometimes wearing socks is just it does make your feet feel like they're suffocating. Yeah, he was. He was. He's the one that asked me. It's like, let me know when it comes in. I'll wear it. I'll wear it to school, you know? Yeah. Engine Joe. Rondi, you're a mess. You're a mess. But I don't know. Been on here almost 2 hours, so um well thank you. Thank you. I would I don't know where I came up with it either. It's like I was thinking, man, I want something tough, something something that, really is gonna grab people's attention, and that's the name that came out. But since I was talking about what I do for a living, I built my own practice. Like I had my own practice for like 5 years, because I'm a therapist. So I like had to do all the marketing, all the books, all the scheduling, all the therapy. I maintained the building, and things like that. Let me see if I can find a picture on my Facebook so that I can show y'all what it used to look like. Let me put some music on while I'm doing that. Okay, I uh I found them. I had to download them though because I didn't want to dox myself. So let me show you guys pictures of my old office. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. I guess not. Well, y'all let me know what you think. Okay. Bye, Leon. You take care of yourself. This was the entrance to my office as I was making the reality come true. As you'll see, the progression, that's one of the first pictures. And this was, I thought this picture was so cool because they had like wooden blinds and they had the brick with the kind of half and half. And there's like the offices. And there's the stairwell leading up to my office. Can y'all see that? There's a bigger picture. That is the group room. There's the stairwell after I completed putting stuff on here. These photos right here, these photo frames are 12 steps. They're the 12 steps with every step engraved at the bottom. So I thought it was a neat touch for the 12 steps going up into treatment. This is a shirt that I designed. Oh no, that was a steep staircase. And that was it says helping the community break away. Let us help you get control again. Counseling works. It says empowerment plus application equals change. And there was the lobby area. And there's my office in there after I got stuff, put in. And here's the group room again. And there's the outside of the building. And there's my office. Here in Texas, we're proud of our country kind of motif stuff. I always thought that the bricks showing in between the sheetrock stuff looks so cool on a building. There's the outside again. This was another. This was a lawyer's office right here beneath mine. Mine was up here. I had the whole top floor, and that was the name of my business. My business was called Spring Hope Recovery. There's the group room again. And there's the outside of the building at night. See this water tower in the back? I used to sit because there's windows in the back, right? So you could see the water tower. I used to sit in my office and fantasize about climbing that damn water tower. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? I wanted to climb that water tower so bad. And I don't know if y'all remember these bunnies, but they used to have little captions underneath them. So I had these along the hallway where you could read these as you were walking toward the entrance. There's the front of the shirt. And there was a prototype of a sign that I was trying to make. I was trying to figure out a way to make a sign. And what I did is I got an old barrel and I filled it with potting soil, put a brick in here so it wouldn't be stolen. There was a couple of bricks in here that made it heavy as hell so people just wouldn't come and steal it or, topple it over. And these flowers were beautiful once they bloomed. And so this was the sign and it became different over time. I think that's all the ones I got. Yeah, that was the last one. It took me probably about 3 months to get started between decorating, putting up everything. Like this dry erase board right here, it was literally a big piece of like linoleum kind of stuff. And we built the borders and you could write on it. The floor was orange, so that was the selling point of the building. That's my favorite color. So 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, so I thought I'd share that with you guys, because I love the staircase. Talk about cardio. I think there was probably 15 steps. I didn't ever count them. But this was after I completely finished everything. I was taking pictures. See these old windows, like in the 50s or 60s? This building reminded me of like when you watch those older detective shows and you see the old glass like that, the frosted glass. I thought it was so awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your kind words. Kind words. Well, you guys, I think I'm gonna call it a night. I'm getting kind of tired. But I've enjoyed being here with you guys. So yeah, it takes a while to get up those steps. I mean, moving all that furniture and stuff up those steps, it was it was quite draining. And that area of the state is very humid, so it was pretty. It took a lot of work. Took a lot of work. Thank you guys too for being here. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be live this weekend, but you guys be on the lookout for the notification. Make sure you hit the notifications. If you watch this on replay and you're not a subscriber, be sure that if you enjoy the content, kind of sub up. You just never know what you might find in here, you know? So, you guys have a very nice rest of your evening. Try not to sweat the small stuff. And remember, be kind to yourself. And one more thing. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't dig it, you need a bigger shovel. I'll see y'all soon.
Walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect